Hi, everyone. I'm back with another episode. I'm going to share with you a, I want to say, a time in my life when my grandmother was still alive and she was my best friend. I miss her so very much. My grandma's name was Beatrice. She was a wonderful person. She was very caring, loving, generous, and God fearing woman. I used to spend hours talking to her on the phone. I was always going to her house to help her out, go get her food, take her to doctor appointments, and just to hang out with her. She used to make food baskets for the church to give out to people in need. When we used to go out, she always had food in her trunk to give out. One time, we had came up to a lady and her kids. She had a sign and was asking for help with food. And my grandmother had pulled over and waved at the lady over, like, come over here. She came to the car with her children with her, and grandma asked her how she could help her. And the lady asked for help feeding her and her family, her children. And then my grandma got out of the car and offered her food. She told the lady she didn't have money, but she had plenty of food. And she asked the lady if she wanted any. The lady looked at the food and then back to grandma and said, no, we would rather have the money, which was nuts. I stood there like with my mouth open and I was thinking, how would she say no to food when she was hungry? Like, I couldn't fathom that. And I couldn't believe it. And grandma said, I'm sorry I couldn't help you. And the lady left and went back to her spot on the street. And then we got back in the car. And grandma said, we just have to pray for him. That's all we can do. And I just looked down. I felt bad, for the kids. And I couldn't understand why she wouldn't take the food if they were hungry. It was, just something that stayed in my mind. And I just couldn't grasp it. But grandma seemed to have dealt with it before. That's the way it seems. So soon after all that, we started going to grandma's doctor quite often. She never told me why at first. She had tests done while I sat in the lobby waiting on her. So we were back and forth to the doctor, and one day I found out she had cancer. I never knew where the cancer was, but I saw her getting sicker. I was helping her out more and more and doing things for her. I didn't want to leave her most days. She tried to hide how sick she was. I used to go get her fast food from a place called Del Taco. She liked their burritos. And so she always wanted the same burrito. So I went and got her a burrito one time and she threw it all up after she had ate it. And I never knew why. And then it seems like she went downhill really fast. My grandfather ended up retiring so he could take care of her. And I visited her when I could, and I felt like I was losing her. And then one day, out of nowhere, it seems I got a message from one of my aunts that said Grandma was dying and we needed to get there as soon as possible. So another of my aunts picked me up and we headed to Grandma's house. It took about 20 minutes or so to get there, longer than I wanted to. Once we did get there, everyone was crying. And I came into the living room and one of my aunts said, you missed it, baby. She's gone. And my earth just shattered. I couldn't breathe. I had the hardest time just grasping her death. And I was like in a haze and barely remember who told me to go say goodbye. My aunt, one of my other aunts, I have a lot of aunts, was with grandma as I came in, and she left me alone with her and closed the door. And I was alone looking at the woman that I loved so much and didn't want to let her go. I sat next to her bed and held her hand. She was still warm, and I thought, well, maybe she's just asleep. But in the back of my mind, I knew she was gone. So eventually, they came to get me out of the room and led me into the living room. And the mortuary came in to take her body, and I just sat in the living room, just stuck. Couldn't think, couldn't talk. I was just so lost. As they took Grandma's body, past all of us, I felt like I wanted to scream. I can remember this feeling. I felt like I was screaming, just I couldn't hear it. And I can say I don't remember leaving the house or anything after her body left the house. I just knew I lost my best friend. I used to call her number on accident. I would go by her house on accident, and then I'd stop over to say hi to Grandpa and see how he was. He seemed okay, but I know he was hurting inside. They'd been married for so many years. I'm sure he was lost because I know I was. Her death really hurt me. I felt like, what do I do now? I had crying spells a lot. Times I just couldn't deal with life and going on. And it helps me to talk about it now, but it took me a long time to get here. And if you ever have feelings like what I had, talk to someone if possible. You will heal somewhat. Just hold on to the memories. I have to say, I have just a lot of memories with my grandmother. And I hope you enjoyed this episode, and maybe it helps somebody out there, to understand and, help them with their feelings. And I'm going to leave with this quote. Sometimes it's okay if the only thing you did today was breathe. And that's by Yumi S. Thank you guys so much for listening. Talk to you soon.